weungil tuta weungil longeyim ludior katamran merenga sulela Dios sertial mal gora sesel ul medidi el sils el altutau aquí ngul mas kamiar adarablu man sa pamilom kadong el sa pamil nganya karmiu ngamen ter kamiun sa pamilom kadong andi riula ngora patokar adalo keragi isel tial el klingigel el bolsa el lobal tobder belau ma katamol ngit telwase katamol ma 50 golds rauriu ra sure kita era potamerek ma poto tengeu de swirar adarapulu wase ngrau de swil girel tial wase katan mutan momrula amendment el open raklingigel el bolsa el adi imol bol el guler a 50 pound Magadamo la 50 gold selu era potamrekara toksyo raw Udesuall. Ndi el altu town swadalo ay selwase katamdinge rogul wase ngora masega tabalu maldigamlo mereka Independence Day gith makadamral merenga sulela Independence Day Committee el losab ilgut makliaw ngil lokotel rakara Independence Day gid malmlew ngila program maigel protocol activity ra ol hotel belau fair OBF direk kakoraw ngil luldas el almlo merega rak el arage kotokora campaigner ngi makata seibaw do de direk kal di tal ngaringi mang diakal til say mam silbela mlamo 31 years mal masaula bilung ma ebir klay martigal ma silbela ulgukli la imori regut maklia mal mleungil emral mle masega dal ma silbela makada mal el shout out al mora Independence Day Committee ma silbela ma OBF committee mlosab ilgut maklia mral mleungil activity ma conference ma of course Independence Day direct kalswadalo ay selwase abela wa mo hoster sel Pacific mini games ra June 29 and mo July 9 esel do mes esel deng lakra PNOC ngarinya meeting tigay gidel adra ONOC ngarinya ngel Dr. ngel President ra ONOC Robin Mitchell ma Secretary General Ricardo Blas matirger rogul aiger rogul 22 belu ding lo sab ela 21 al belul me participate ma kumda se agora a meeting artira el almol mutra October 5th ma swadal gora dim isi o aisrar adal mangaus maro magit telwase ko mga tmokar kamiw le June 29 and mo July 9 nya mal mo botokar ar okya kargi dal meuso ko laklokol say dal time ko mga tmokla makatingiw de halokol sab ether ko ka mornya imol sensor gid direct kalswadalo ay selwase el al October 1st kada timtinge rogul wasin kukmlo sab el mas a minimum wage el $4.25 ya next year October 1st tengguk mas almo $5 kada direct kakora di patokar adel mlam katong nga kalgirela apapil ngira WIOA edi swadalo ay selwase katamin nga ra chairman kalistus ngirturong ma director tao luaseng tauong yun Mary luwase bol sa parin may el biisil mergit kita timtingel luwase pepirata metangara press conference di bol sa parin may el smodil mora balura tetele laigel guk papingirar adel guk mlo de hal sa paril haraw matirgel guk mlo sa paril lol tobadaw dudir mal bol gora mo blakatak morar adarabalu direct kalswadalo ay selwase ang morning sele Palau Conservation Gala Dinner ra October 23 toltera tiget makatolngit tulwase al sa pami wa aldabe alubang aigal ministry pol sa irin ara tiget al support at tokora Palau Conservation Society yal nga niya ngidir karmi wen sa pamilom gadong ra 488-3993 katamdinge rogul wase senator sadoy talam sa mlaringi atok show ringir sera idelis wase ngaringi sel togora child subsidy lul sauteringi el wase se bekkel boy landing wase I stand to be corrected mendi swada lo ay so wase mlamo blakatak wase bekkel annually tamsu kara talngal ga erul dart rabek karak mang di bol blakatak say direct swada lo ay so wase ngaringia udodara ngaringia sel RPPL 11-37 ra $500,000 el tilob den mora Palau housing le appropriate the authorizer tir wasem tob daw del mora igel housing program el malmol ngaringi ma togora low cost aiga udo del girela low cost housing malsum swamel guk repairable al ubang mortigel lodi garada lang aklir mal ubang ngidil nge sal sum milse sa problem ngarak low cost housing ay gayita sa el tobel mool nga sir kamil sa email mora capital le apply le officer tira sel tuug sel got ongerul tuugil raw era capital rang rulmud adang direct suada low ay selwase ki goram latiang direct kamsao dalwase Governor Rahman Lemre Governor Raira Norman Girat apot Rahman Lemre ta teringi mesera reng selwase tosi gabasyon moringia hospital eng malmlemre dal ngoy titiar dal adara public works e motogugi sel utomel ngarpa pa kumda sel ang arbitara o lo gut makli wase presidente ayida moringia hospital ngi endi sel to mesa sessioner eli en mlosab ela rubugul orior el tamal masaul el mal malat kra el mal clod long okra blur orior matamal masaula rubugul orior el guk mlosab ilot tabdiya ongit el mora obisa presidenta ma kapiam lora presidenta senet mar senator Roguy mas pigera house mar delegate Roguy wase ang malolngit el wase dorgadia hospital tiang magapakora oreng el wase naasap il la blur order kapernor ayos rudi mar adara olbil aspigew el sawas mar ada olbil polsap il abay gongel wase lagi del ngul mortiale asahi field mal ngora klol basyo en arbitartial one stop shop mang akong maral wasing mal ideal basyo endi direct kung dura senator Paules en direct kakoro omdasul wasing malungil albora asahi field ma hopefully la direct goram le suggest wase pol sab el mora tial hospital katamorulia aguk asahi pol fidra hospital endi kita timtingir rogul waigel blaktung wase Moringi say del Pacific Mini Games ra next year mende halogol de halsap el lomu laurora hospital al suguma oriora governmental oriora motor si say del utmra asahi field direct el gadamerang asulel la ar adara senate el gukmlo sab ilodor lobangela social security el girel laigel tirgel sel amnesty program ra social security tirgel wal ngosong sa quarter sertir mang tamlamo 60 rakrit katamreng asule la blara senate el mlosop el over lo pengelar adara borda ss mtigay gitan latbdi amnesty program el girit tirgel seragum katong ra social security elite to ay selwase girel main el household girel ngosong sara 16 quarters el merio girel 60 regil dia hangot el income merni en mosob el qualified tiang diesel do mesra a sessioner eli en direct kakoram leungil point el blel racer niya a senator Rudim el girel taigel gombali الواسي تيريا مهارة واتان ngel adel wal nga songs le ngaring yar bebirar adel ngaramong ya kotoreng sulwase seral top the tial tax refund der tigel 15,000 and meryo matori 1,000 and meryo kadireng sulwase ngaring yar arguk shobay megegarel shobay mlo dia kalharawa tax income withheld der tir ma SS tir mang direct ako raw Udesuall luwaseng mesel waiseng ngal adel lulurior el didaktaw dudel magaratang mo suwirang gay al sugumang completely tiagit tial amnesty program sera kung adur tigel ada SSR elito wase girel ang gel main el household gay gidel ku klongra la talong ok amo sab el qualified yang endi aling di hal 17 18 quarters and 16 quarters el meryo egirel 60 rigil ediha income ringi mang direk ka raw Udesuall endi i senator inabok mlom kataklo asendia individual mang korati swakal isi ebol blakatakla direk kalmlaringi sel 1.4 million el blel appropriate authorized ringi ndi ako mengle 1.4 million el tadim le appropriate ringin dindim lakal tob el girit tigel el 400 saludo del 480 retirees ranges wel el tigel dia ka income bertir dindim lakal authorizer ngi lengle sorry el mo omes ngi kita dimdingel wase sel domeser sel sessioner eli engirel mo o senator tapsa korati lulwase polsab el chancer sel definition ralla matigel 55 el merio el dia halorior amo sabril qualify endi Udesuall sentia ngie del subil wase tapmaltelal af maltela ludo da los perngi lol tobderngil mo ol nga certigay gidel af tadirek kakora ongeru nga direk kakora ulmesel wase 480 kada lachen sengin mo 600 mo permanent ogoreng mo akmer del tial ngesura SS ra bekal el mas ra 50 dala matokora o meser segi del wase ngungil albol bekal time el ngas ra 50 dala el morba mang tamo o mesra revenue ra el almel 2025 mga klisi el revenue soyis mang subi malbol lungil pasul etiram u all top daw del girel segi del ududir tigel retirees el dialo suka ang idil income adang direk el wase katungul masterira SS man sabain mo ngara ringi manggukti tira o ngara ringi mang rabek kalboy lalo bang ditara tara kalbolol top ringi lo master tigay gidel mlaritar leng batokal ada wal plan retire dia ka angidil gora a retirement benefits sa SS mang tada daitat ngara irul dartelat masegi da gora ala lul southern ngira ula senator eli etige idel irul dartelat dia hang clear al seltial system ra SS mang seya uleng egada malasmel mga turar adara board ertiay idel amnesty program mangbol sa bariral tigay gitad 16 quarters el merio amo sa bariral loludro loban tatrira ngale Clinton rangamay sanggeya administrator mal nga nga ngitir karmium sa ilom katongar ngi lol nga sir kamiu algidel sa igidel social security amnesty program adang direct nga ngisel budget el tilob der el FY 2025 katangal tangatar atara olbi lamlo sa baril gongel lol nga cert ay get rokul business and adil ertra tourist ay get rokul shoba el ngilalon ra NDPP Apo kung dome seringi set tom ko tong ringi sele restructured loan el bol sa lol nga sertir el mla ngup taigel penalty ma interest mo sa baril harar tial loan artir el mo ke bagak kartin di alin di altil tokora tourist mat tokora aigal make karel siobay mal ngar nyang idil garmium kamenter commune sa pamilom ko tong ra 488-5350 sab edel koram las mal el hensi ay gel sum ngar nya garmium mal ubang kamenter commune swakalo ay selwase mal namo beto la adal el malengar tial ambulance ra tirgel ituut matirgel ospera tigel gora homebound ospera nges ra blirir el mora hospital al up tangara hospital nyuing etaying el mora balu to ay selwase Jennifer gi malol ngitang eswertiale naididala mal meringar kamam yang aramong yang mlet 20 dala arala ambulance selol takartin morabliri dal ubang arablin moraguru yang mlet 20 dala maldim le rala lu esegi del time yang mlar eungela hospital a Ministry of Health and Human Services di elatial ambulance wal blalbol ngar alela adara fire lol takarar sme rabliri mora hospital ma hospital morabliri and di tokora masal dalwase ngara mangagipe nairi dala ndi sel gimpe nairi dala en dia gimpe ngin mora hospital makibora hospital et nganya papel la filler ngi yan al sumtam lara award anur sa filler ngi yang hun mister adara obis et tigal sme rangul mora a fire mataharar ngi ya 50 dala lgong arala lu ya 40 dala aralengel adalom kalra ambulance el weather ngodior al ubang diakalodior dito kol mleo se tigel wal tamo usper tigel diakalodior harar tira forida la lol takara asme el morabli lal ubang arablin moraugurul mandi swat el goram isi sel el kong manamo betokar adal lo monday sel lola receipt en dial sabarin mastrira receipt mang agera wase ngraw mang tial arala ambulance di alpora Ministry of Finance di adara fire malar tiay gidaludod maktiswa kal isi akmlegol ra hospital eli etta confirm maigal tokoy alwaseng maral waisay mang tiam lamo edel Sunday matal buy ramla memong mairud Sunday ramla memong nganyar adalom kodong low montal gidel tiang makasendiak eriak mom isi hopefully en sab edel nganyar ngarbabel adaloreng sa sab aril sumakli tiang mapolo tenger adarablu waseng maral waisay makarato pol sab edel ngosutrit tigel maas maruba kal lospe anges diakawdudin naididalal letia nairi dalal ngaya puy kelo ay selwaseng nairi dalal mora ngarpet direct kal nairi dalal mora honto mang waigel blaktung 50 kong arala lu ya foria morang gelom gal hale dong hutial dengwa
dear
maluit kuta Jennifer will Friday mora kami umara station koragi okay lo setkanda ka sedro spea MSL tekel tilagi ng tukurang balance. Kamsulang.
Kamsulang rubag malungil luldaswo. Endi tia el angar wal hararngin mora fire tigel lowra fire wal nguseludod. Di kera aseng makarasap el a hospital ma SS mablila bulis amot mage orior. Mangtob der segi del MSA etil amalungin luldaso dinggal adara hospital gulngat atu ngiak mula siang aramong en mlet 20 dalal maldi erala lu ndi el atial ambulance seral molu tel mora a fire en wa ko kadati mora fire haraw ndi nganyar smer mal ubang adalo pas smer ngara ambulance awaseng dia ka TS ka receipt dia ka receipt mang hopefully sa irar suguma Minister of Justice ma atiga lengara olpila oreng sa pol sa irir ma obisa president pol sa irir sum aklitiang et abular sme lal sugumang dia ka ududire mahara na iridala mang alakalhara when dia sa irir lol takartir mang giretan mo obesel wasem tial ambulance ang makarang la giretan guk mo smiki ya tara amlay ban men sab elol takarti gay gidel sme el morablirir ma guk ngarablin mera ugrula e halle tong tial dengwa
Dear,
Ali will tutaw. Will tutaw jen kami mal adra studio.
oy malungit tutaw
Ega kamlo dun ologet kyalgir. Ano kul sis belelaw do del mora kabelment ang kola ginel mora Ministry of Finance. Oh. Klel lamol Kaluro loro ringi kolekta udo de klel olmal la. Will sirabe ringi ko mesula.
Hindi malungil la kamenter ka ke ruba ke di halogol sa parirar adal loreng sertiang ebol gat makli adang tadira kamal abuti gay gital itut tigel uspe aram lal ngarab lal mora hospital mangara hospital mora blal dia kaududire haranay ritala haletong utial dengwaye
caller on the air.
Ali will tutaw.
malungit tutaw
Oh, itirgel lawlor del fire. Tigil al ambulance. Tirgel abal lawlor lo bakal. Garaban da kasi ilo makalas ka ambulance. Mamalaran abal na kalawlor. Al ngarali pal uwataw lugulan me o makalari. Ba kana buhara o ko aklukan man maring ra abal ila altay.
why say
Sula.
sula gel maaseng kalel lolar tigel walol ngula lup tangarali beleng tawase al top the tigal lom kalle kalel bornya emergency mang di nga hamal di malgot ko lol ko tigay gidel adel mla experience ngi mar adel ngara hospital halle tong utial dengwaye
Caller on the air.
Oy mitutan de korkasal. Malungit tuta Jennifer.
nito taw
Kugen sa mga ra takora ambulance. Silbong ura utumilan la maglo takla ospital silbo ro utumilan la. Ospital maskul. Amrar ngi abi algeria ro mar. Ba silbo nya way gay di guktora transportation ro ambulance mara. Ay gad ro gul essential ospital. Ngaka oba ba chet raigan gulgoy. Ngarinya uzo del top del mora logo maintenance ra sel hospital. Pag suguma ambulance sa tara o di riura sme malu ngolger de bla adu go airport. Entara ngal al sex di del budget del top ra. El mora ministro ainda. Mandi al pian lomla lo de mila ya plano tu laro igara. Yung ngararo mo hindi wang yung lomre kan koler. Aro ko bakalek tulugo ra sila kabalmen ang arnya ulsalen giren morni. Ang arnya omsogel kadek tawdo grangibin department. Manggire del moralla ke sum oklay gay gigel di ngara mung gere tuwa del wase kada malenga ambulance wat piagi da. Ngot tak tren sa iba. Ngire del sum ok ususultan yung sokolo ni Jennifer vom request tra administrator ra SS ma tirgel lolor nga unget belabera eren Soviet tial tor SS tial tora tial kwaran tirgel masong sa kwaran ditir ay yigir buk mesol kabalmento oktober del mor SS bodor nga adrabadu wasen kurbuk kirel getat tial adi tial SS ay gaududira adrabadu
I say
Why sin gina sel siguro mga obis amor niya why kay gina pretal gina disseminate information and moral other benefited yan. Lobis? En gina doon na buhay o taro kulaan mo. Kadol mo nung ito ka issue.
Yang why serupa ko faliar adara Social Security Administration aboard ma-administrator o ranks mo sa paril meto malakal mir adara board el mengel administrator Mr. Clinton nga mais melme melaw ay sertial PSL ay sel malungil ay sel mortigay gitel nga song sa quarter malbol sa pelol nga sertigel 16 morba para ako ka udaw del mortir rapekal buy rat tokora retirement why se rokulu daw da katong maral was rokulu daw da kirel mo na Ministry of Finance lesel da hara license sergi ma police clearance sa katapil all mora finance el muten merabli la police mang halen di halokol ngel PSL director Curtis at halokol mo mengay mangla mo sum aklit yang mang kata di swadel isil lang gora patokar atel el di malgoy martex mang di swadel sharing may pol sa ela di pengkal PSL director gut makli nge di hal nge kumesim le soldaw mang mal action men man di halokol mo sum aklit yang mang kadal amor meng sa kuk PSL waseng mo ang ratetelel sel dos pertial ambulance halatong utial gol
Caller on the air.
Oi, malututa sale, malututa chen.
malungit tutaw
Wadili aklutul morsele ambulance.
oy
Nga kamnora guru sera December last year.
oy
Aknora guru Taiwan. Ang ngaram nila umrol legal mora guru tira agra mal hospital request ambulance.
oy
Tira kumulwa se gile melmo hara ora. Able abulis. Ay gimlo agul dere abre mo hara ora ni. Ding le 140.
olek
140 ito otaka kalmura airport. Ilire kamle askalisit ito kumasindia kalisit.
oh my kameral tokoy
Oy. Ilire kalmlo rarong gornile ilire kalmlo hospital audo mahara radart mo koy maklu radart mo ko klura ambulance. Makminila ambulance elmay agimro lang. Ilire kalman let meudira omral mo airport dire.
I say
Gora ini jadi dakka tulla tunge kam koral ma mutul
dia kamsulang alpay yungil kamlameto de mal na mo plakatakla leng dia kalbiot tatangar tiang sera botol nga seura tial chora Udesuall eng betokar adalom katong masal taigang makmalol ngit luase lakal korar adal marut aurior matokol po kusal dal lakal pol makitarang miweng katong maral waseng plool there's always room for improvement Ega langalela balu yang ngar gukti hal sab ilway gal meto de smauth makmal di ngartiang al mal ngarirar adara balu tirgel gora de hal sab il mung el sel tokora mrigel lakase I'm the voice of the voiceless adang ma kamal masaule koler el mlam katak mang mlamo plakatak landi ka abul el moraw gurule mle harawa 140 dala ete halo korel angay ngar ngarpa pel adan mo sabri rong sitiang esum akli ya kumral wase katangal tangat mlamo ringya PSL director git mende halo gol mo look into this mo o meserngi esum aklin mo ngil hopefully Minister of Finance mang sabel mo o meserngi mom gatak luasen dia karo kuludo da girel mera sangalela a government at tugod ni at Ministry of Finance mang malmo maklor ngode katangat yalol nga seura at ya government tergita tang halatong utial gole
Caller on the air.
Oo yan. Kami touch sa set 480. Sinesul. El morar mo wabon.
oy
El asel bo message first tial 480 ulun tilo el morar mo wabon. Aula kala.
ngay se
Mlara ang sila subsidy. Mo $11.1 ma $11.2 ma $11.4. Ay gam na sila tial subsidy dulu ang president. El ako mesa para senator. El ako tadi ng mga American balko ngiling buk tumlan muk tuguk. Wado dulu sa tumlan muk tro to bedir walo ro ra intent tial la. Ra sila senate. Ako mesa para sa senator ng mla propose niya sila senate mla gil wala change sa sigil. Bang kahalalongi sigil la ku kwa mesa udak mera erem la koy. Ma gumesir ngin atrak mal gire de sinifer mo beli waktu tele lawa kagil PCST. Sel do mesaro ko reporte. Em natuong marugul ang senator ma president maratak sa nakbu kami tuti. Bisel po mal bodo kami sa tax. Raasil wala el alsid. Em 12%. Ito nga team mo 10%. Akmal ko gire la GRT pa PCST. Sila GRT yung 12%. E amo PCST, ito nga team mo 10%. Saya as a whole na adset yung tax sa GRT ma, PCST. Mula nga tax. Kambay latol gulgor niya.
Why say?
Say gina ako sakal luto dali mo ngalila tiligal nam super ngil me figure ngil o urug se tiaba tial tax sa mga murni tiang ilangat net 12%. Meron ko ngilangat mo 10%. Kabalo mo men to ka issue to ka amal ko.
Oy. Msula ke ruba ke se alisel 480 although del mortirgel atel dia kangitil income mertirel diga atta losuk mseya ul matugukora ngaya senator mle suggest luase bol 55 el morvap di kotoreng sertir eto ase ngire del momes luase tamal telalat maltelaludo da kakarngi malgiril ngun morvap el ngun morleng alakra 1.4 seya ku klaw matingirangak endid sugum nganya tukol gora alwid endi halokol sab itigal ladra ol bil me makatakla al upang selut oy
Kaya
kapo
sa baba sa get 2. Algi se po 18 mora tigel mal tax refund.
oy
El tigel mil sugra 15,000.
wise
Algi lin modori 1,000. El musugo se gidel 480. I got the blood to koy.
wise
Matigel gidel buk musugo se 480 mora de se assistant del minister mora. Tigel gidel dia ka uredir. El
see.
gidel se gidel.
Esel tokora taxa tel GRT ang aramong hindi ngarinya tax tial ara laklal ulsera tangara GRT hindi gidel adra bluati mlakatesang hindi el alplata pora PGST e kahara klokle mengari sel total and more ni sel PGST tax mesewal klaka karoser ngi
Why say tiadi bla awakal akal amna tiak tak samlargi. Kung wako claim na si artisan 3% port de l'oxygen, e mergosel motor 4%, e mergosel 4% tangan ya tax sa kanila ansin. Di kita dimla ko ng liyak.
oy
El ansin sa mrak bigay ng ilwasi. Di amle wa isi kita ta teleta. Er abdi nga ra port e kung 10%, 10% se lolar ngi ti 10% mga port aguk mulo turul engel ngejidil mala se aguk harar 10%.
say
And all the way around the table. Gudu. Ito naman ito ka issue.
oy makamsulara kamenter ka ke rubak direkal di ako dingay gat direk kamral mlat murgar mudal di masada tel tokora tax mang arungo kon di nga tal up tapotokol adam laskare ratokora PGST haladong hukti alcohol
Color on the air.
Balungit tu tachen.
malklobo ko leungil
Oh ya, kadi tergi belungas mau dia tegi de tora ambulance al mall airport.
oy
Ya gid dia lulus pera ambulance ra this year sa July.
Shulait el alir
Oh el mora huri.
morger
Akim dora huri ping.
huriping sa opera airport
Yes. Akim bra le hara ra $140.
oy
Al gim liga do ra Cibra Fire.
oy
Selva bia relia adra hospital.
oy
Gore approve niya dokta kita ngul mora bla bolis. Oren sa edel di mo sebel pick up pergi dang ilak mo manggel driver am pick up per kamam ya di mor airport FP.
oy
Etiagida umusodel. $100 Saudi ticket payroll officer sel off story ebet targis. Tirgel hulgel kasi tigangap ang maptum turo le ko perti ko perti Eta setikasil ngu tagimdara of turil ang altrasirar bulis.
Oh.
Mendakal sabirar bulis ang turil may koy tatrira de mor airport te mgira tebela departure del dua emergency e mo da ko sa tamakarang.
Oh.
Oy.
Ya fori amor.
Oy. E ora sel garga seguir el babel de baskit.
Oy.
Asil dungol mo e kada pay engel officer sa tatira pa princesa hindi ka ngumlet proclaim.
Matya wal receipt ter ka utial printesa.
Yes. Why say $140?
Ma $40 wal bol aral lalu.
Ese $40 ara la fuel.
Oh. Kapay masulan mla direk kam law deng wal me o guys.
Oh.
Tia direk ka wara di al malmat le let's say ok mo kom lara ambulance accident. Tirga off turi goram ngayap kay sa amrungol tub tirga off turi kam laharar tiren ta mo liable.
Kung ang questioner ni, tige dino kasi o nga off turin, they will swear in and 24/7.
Oh. Dia kapay masaw lalguk mlam metob de o ay se hopefully ngel BSL director ablila pulisa mo sum aklit yang leng direkar adaraplo o mondal wasay kang koral akiren mora omsangalela kapermente direkal ngaring ape birata meng ketemu osperar nur sal ubang toktang letir kawal lospe special assistant tal mora airport endi tigal nurse menti aluto dala
O yan, di ba, babay diwan ang direct block questioner ka bang? Ang gel nurse ni escort ka ma'am ang ngaras kogil mo lokon mora huriping
oy
agi pera tiget ringi
why say
el pera perdium ringi
oh
Gen nurse ni escort ka ma'am last stretcher.
makom iloy tatela ratiget maperdium mergi
Tiget mable batok ko rin natigil sa perdium ringi leng di blakat sa ma'am ko ngil mo malkira huriping agi mo lang rabi del ngasel ngi next flight
oy
baging ngilul bara huriping oduruk dilaw kwam mang may mamblo ka sa perdium ringi
oh wow
Oy.
matya di hal tover ti ay del gora insurance komiwe
Oy.
tiale MSA and
Yeah.
H
Oh.
oh
Kapag lagi mga MSA, magidin lang paguktal private insurance ka ma'am.
oy
Amle ka pero hindi kaya din doon sa din ka perngi. Kipira around trip ticket ringi, lubang galak per diem ringi.
Di ako feeling mo sa ila tirgale leader sergi dermengs mo omesergi sum aklil mo ngileng direk kamal abular atel waisel especially nga itigel guk matar basrir esel bol waiset tamal mo kurusi mo hopefully sa il guk mo omesar adara NHIS tialigera National Health Insurance alwase magarado mese pod tirgel bol sa paril hara raskogi maperdium ludimuk especially tigel wake sir kamiwel el malos pe ara tial el escort ranur sang toktang al moraw garul kapay mal masaura mal commenter ka we ma akong maral wase til adira kamalungi ludas wase bol sa paril adara National Health Insurance lome seringi el abay mo si sabil ngani gel pepira insurance el malay gel kukti to raw grul mamadat mahaysya ngani sel kuk special el wase in case of emergency maka per se gidel gora extra mo hopefully maral sabil gut makli mandi halbol guk mo ko tayrar pepira sme sel poraw grul magabay mal masaw lulumlam ko dong kuko otia experiencer kaw di haloko loreng setigal ngarbabel at mo hopefully di atalutan mo amawa away tiang kita direk kagire lol nga sertir mang mo omesa director apli la pulis direk kamo ay sernil tang sab el sum aklil mo ngil ata kamran masaw lagi rupa ata mangay gayidal mal masaw letigel mlakol low ay saigel guk experiencer tira tokora ambulance endi di ako maral wa single BSL director Curtis Rablila Police ade alokol mo o mesertiang esum aklil mo ngil makatamal mo maklorngut ko mal masaw lolom ko tong o ice mang ngarpa pala adel tira to liter tira sub ilgut maklitiang adang etong utial demwa
Caller on the air.
Tutay.
Bilang ana pala wave radio.
Ngil tutaw.
Kami itong shifter gidan mo ra mam lagi tayo.
Oy.
Wala mo sugar ngayon malmuti ilang malang songs. Ay present tam na sa inyo sel budget sa 2025 sila Monday na muror.
Oy.
Tu gidio agulingit lo asi mam lagi tayo ang song sa gitan mentro mam sel gimora be kalbuil. Mag agulingit malong sa clear ata taklo mo. So Israel almel year 2025. Then doon nga tataklo ajal gimola rabit kalbuil next year malmogil busula adalang clear na amna detail mo arala ro mo arala ringi nga mo arala ay almega ma arawi umsurat te ale chene
Ya, kamsula. Sa lege ruba ke sel dome sel sessioner eli sel ludo del 480 awal portigel dia ka income bertir etmo ome serngil waseta daita tamaltelalat egiri lol nga serngil telang of course tial gureng selwaset tiaya akatengel el tirgalom tergi damlagut makliya budget el girela next year el dia katangara continuing tiaya budget el girela 2025 magata otangiya olbil ma executive branch markup cabinet terngil gukmlo sob ilgut maklitial budget el girela next year and the of course ang blol nga ngisel negative el feedback alwase ngang mal ansinger ngil mong mas mang lakut makliya budget ngang ram guktial tigal adara olbil ma executive branch guktial longirab esel government el dil lolmol mel ngara continuing hindi gidam tingel wase el al president tamlo sub el signer tial budget ram darirar asil belaw tigal talat sera September dori mangdehal maasim la government makata amat raw relir giretan mo positive leng blol dehal bulgulo se ngel mo be esel president tigel morab esel olbil dehal sabril magarat tial budget el alplal sai ngegitan timtingel rogul wase sabe el mogut makliya supplemental el budget mang hopefully torreng se de halogorel kautial mladersia 100 tala ke ruba kalwase mo talgi pel ngosuga ra laugrum akarum ma tadalang aklem mang hopefully torreng se ekonomi sertial PGST alpolo waigel dilu tigel bebiar senator wase ekonomi saba collection ra revenue ra 2025 mabolungi len dialogol mong mas aududiw ada makamal masalom kodong etong utial dengwa
Caller on the air.
Tutawa Jen.
mal klobo ko leungil
Hello?
oy ngit tutaw
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're on the air. She's listening. You're on the air.
So we're talking about medevac and evac. Are other bilyo mga yaur like ang giri na kuno sa igara state ng governor or whatever but naka light airport. So by the time other mumat or lamos mayor or oxpa medevac naka sebelas ko gilmong and then skuma tangara etra state tangara Oreor and it'll take 2 hours and more 2 hours back. So that's like almost 5 hours. So Tiakuti Mortigel Adrayol Davel kasi 5 hours and by the time Alvera Hospital Oreor. That's it. Sulang.
sulara kamen terakaw hindi ako local atara ospital mar amrin lo ala orengs mong sabihin mo find the way tiagidem lam kat mo club esel airport trablilyo mga yauro mga hopefully sa edel charter ay gal makikareds koki hindi ka seya one way lolta kamate tigal soldal ngartiang ati halokol direk ka sa ilol nga sewal porngia ako rap kay sa amrong lang emergency magmal masawra kamenter kaw adang since hindi ka kadong swatal sukumen haling gegital akol halatong ti alcohol
Caller on the
Malungil tutaw Jen.
Malklopo kaleungil.
Di so comment.
Oy, mitutaw ka po.
Ako rin sa Hikalaldo Amonday.
Oy,
Hindi monday rabing ilaw do mga sa aklelaw do.
oy.
Mangway silbato ka monday hindi ko rasawa kal monday. Lenga rabong amne monday lang ita kaw do. Elang kadamlabo mati masawa na do mga sa aklel mga rang lengil mla mornya do.
Why say?
Makundas ngungil monday at alabang ringi. Sige kita di so kal ko bring out ringil ang rabong ing di nakasabay marulay kang hindi nakaw do. Malsulang.
Tulake rupa ke malmeral tokoy mageko kita kumesa ngatenge kalmal gora omesa sessioner eli smi arngu vertical senator circuit el ngarcel meral blakarendire order lobangela executive branch mar ablara house of delegates etamaral blakarendir mtiagit tigal tial amnesty program ra SS ma tora audutira retirees mangkatamal mo maklorngud le dialogor el torreng se mtingel waseng mering ladalong okleng inflation rablulad mang malsorilol nga circuit adang itong husel tarakole
Caller on the air.
Manul tutaw Jen kama asal
ngituta
Jen mal luilarutal kuksredel walang aerem sa tayo gidel bebirat ko il kukora sum oklaw da swede
say
ngaka mlara bulabe mera eli
oy
ya bulabe aku manila ara laklal ngir belaw etudala minimum wage tir maral gora direkel mo o ora menga saura ay gidele el líder seguido ma klangal tanga tel mer balwad el guk kasing ukya sal mal el tel mal direkel gida dio internet marbekla ta sin mora a youtube mesala singara gotlumil blul adra el alsils gotlumil blul adra number 1 a Finland merwa direkel ngerua Denmark estaba hospital, estaba escola a kindergarten el Molmutra College. Endi selomdula sentada, ndiga ngidil tora sela blula daltada. Aigal school belau public school or pala high school, magoro elementary, maigal school ngarigal back to state, aigal tada. Aigal gredel malawdo, rara adel ketial belul o la batak sergidel. Lola belmo orul trendia ngidil tokoira alsetia klangar maklar langanil tada egredel remula de swedel wasi mo grel mo ngaria akukka udse dar adra belau lagdido mdaso asia bal mamrigel ma australia ma taiwan adio adi haraigal mergid roguira klangar maklar gide gira utiam akume setel mondal ngaril wangel tragole wasi Namo subedelo ngaria to da seltia klanargi del direkal lom alu raklanargi dem aku mesen subedel muje ko gidel mutel mere eringi el mongi dar beklade ku tal salmal mobradra rogulat kamal sulara malunil talk show
Msole ke rupa karakamente ka waisay di alti chaplul apa direkal ati kamsuga tala 15 hour gadamral merenga sulit tigal leader sergit el guklo sabil gut maklit al tora minimum wage namo 425 yan ekshim mo 5 tala mende halokol tamo me sa tora osisabele laudo der el al meral mel fiscal year de halokol al swal mutel mong mas magadamal mo maklorngut di swada lo ay selwase Ndi ako dingel wase kom larmeng sirsel alub kom lamsa sel tokora a YouTube alubang internet lom ko malubang hong al blam iwi lom ko tong ngil wase law of attraction sel law of attraction walo sao daigel mom daswa asabi el motokoy mang alsum kom daswa se gadi apul dia hangararkaw ka creator say gidel energy mang mo I say Dil sugom komda swa positive even though kautial di kaududam di kadik mula se mal botto kaudo de wa omo mesengi raw to swemel mera alsel imam en yaku maral wase mual bolo makrai ringi le korkaw le aldo makshare tiang sel baby leng mal mom tar busug makmula se Dios kamaral masaul maral a isoy saudo den mera imak Dios kamaral masaw lumral a isoy saudo dan mera imak. Dios kamaral masaw lumral a isoy saudo dan merangak. Meselbo mo marar seigit, maral akmaral o ay sergal waseng maral o nga sireng aurele la Dios al sum kamaral o marara al selarongum. Eng maral o lakray le korakaw. Dinggire malo marang. Le odim tul wase nga haapul nga haapul. Dihangarangak dihangara eng mol mo ka creator cell negative energy mang mo ay say makmalol ngitulwa se kapom tarangil atal Sunday eng maral mornya differential sab emel mal aswar ngi mangora ati swakal share ngi lekmla experience ngi man swakal share ngi lobang kami ulwa se kakuk pa chen sa mindset teraw sel obigi sa tutaw mo renga sule laikel kuk blessing sa lekor kaw o koreng akmatingel wase sel domo lasil sel waise eng mal mo ngi lasil sergaw mo sab emel attract ta positive lekor kaw edong uti alcohol hindi kakol manggora dimle sokal share sel lopong kami uleng akmla experience ngi o maral wase kaw mang sabem ay gel domdaso o mesra al sel autoswed maramut asab el motokoy ding mal di moyo rakaw makmal so al share say yade al til say sel baby rat tutaw sel de bigi sal tutaw ko to raskareter akmal di magis akmal tayad akmal di imam emrot amadam madinga maptulum makar yaksilu birtiara adarasina direkal sa pamil mo ra YouTube o meserngi lwa sisel obigi sa tuta momrot amata maptulum madingam maiklem maulum engwal lolgar rakaw mang eng tiay del imol tokoy apl okul guru ringi abekal tuta leksiliu birar adarasina kitam tingel wase mal ancient mal uodla history tir mangora di swakal share say edong ti alcohol
Tutay Jennifer
malungit tutaw
ral gese tutay bagi semra gese di ngar musun ma mun saru bakal dose o nga sulele o krar gi rapid presil man maral toy kame dungul mora asekyor gi delem asois medul mo e medel senkyo
wai se
jagi da te lega del blakat maktil gi la no boy fire
oi
dirigel ngara olbira kulula bukul mol bulbulu sertir multi mukra dirigel be esel mo tomo orang lead mo 15
why say
kita gida sing apo the sing kyo gil 15 la ala dolil tetis mora mora senator segida kora dio sengegra lakat maklakal gil sei
ay sulwaset ta ako raswa malbong.
Program lagi el putat siya na malungiling kamal masaul lo makragi lo posibe lo giwa palawe radio emroboy mosto pa dagel kukura the swedel gela alang lela bluma ate terez move forward msulang iwong
dia kamsulal ko kugergal wasem tengarat tigel kora amomda sengungi labo the security rending dai job ay gal security da lamaltep edigi marubak kal Dios sa madengay maral toy maral mesenkyo mede lal akmung dori 2 days mang maral gide del mo mariter tigay gide rogul ngara plara senate ma house ma vice president ma presidente maritel wasem magaral polngosugi del move maral moruey maklugurar ngalgeter elang maklugugarkit dangutial dengwa mang swatolo ay salwasen di halbiyot senkyon maral may lekat maral ke karel pelu eti kaw tengay Hindi akmaral korati melulu ulwasir pon mereka senkyo eng sabed el motang lela sel tomes eng gorabli ya belu ma haletong utial ko letol molma.
Color on the year.
Okay, sulang isal. Sulang etken.
Sulang.
Kukuram na so is prasenkyo makatukam lamblim makatumama.
Oy kapo.
Ngel abal leko la kora mal sa ka Udesuall ending kora dia kalsal mal kora mora Udesuall. Nga kadile kal mal sa kal tiapen gidra abal bela muding titri kay gidra nga alsel. Lesel bokum tabet kay gidra nga alsel kay tirgel amral gel. Los bel tira gidra abal bela le tay gidra di imol government nam rung len tobra ya yul togol pek padngela lela ugo dul mergi dar mabu maglugu golabel kuk basyo la dal atle de mi la yel kuk der se meso yishba
Oy say.
Ndi nga kahmal swakal di mo mlil trasteru el di mo dalit tilal drui material nga tilang Tirigel terul amo abra klauti takang abra mondai tanglang Lisel man swak tirgay gidel rungul kabelmental ngastel elang tirgay gidal amral gidel al bela lu spesti kamal mesulang edol mol men tokasyo
Oy kamal masaura kamenter kau wai saying Meral me senkyo meral giret el momrit ya senkyo kala maltem endi gulngit luase kata dibe temo kakapos awan na ko hosyargit ending giret rulit el whitegel adarala sel ngara kargaril yarngudun sorin mo kakawat matamaral defenda a client tertir endi sel toda kargaril arokul toko yamde rakargaril etirame tobde adu mangiret el muaiser tial senkyo mapol merege pol tarungut ya de katati gau ade tal ade kakarosa ko hosyargit ending ndi halgiret el met ko politics mel reliden mo kayungas areng alenggiet mo ko mungulra Udesuall tamatang itong uti alcohol.
Color on the year.
Oo, yaklutan mo mang iksinigper.
Kapong nito.
Eguri nga sulit tirget terul na mo mregal ko. Igire la gir ku Udesuall malu yang ngel statistics ra Udesuall gire la kabelment tirget. Sel ku mes la kabelment ela akman mre nga sulit ra adro olbi. Bala legislative ba executive branch. Di waktu gingit tirget del mo mregal wasi gel bla rule Molmutra physical el 24 FY24 ma FY25 October 1st mo. Selbo mesa urelit tirka mal wal set mal atter el altayan. Mal sugumat atter Jennifer magmer secure adrabadu me kulungit malakadori dia ora karkar. Rengarnya ngal el girir mornya arod rangar mata klub se oblidur bener tap ngaling no dia kamyo sa era rangar mata klub se pa onti gawasene mata sate alla a president executive branch ba vice president mar other all be di domes el girela amon bila a senator inabo el maklavik mawele raways means el girel omru breakdown na budget en more finance Lord to daw rom lustial entar government rogis makmal buludu orgidas kami ara buluset kyo be bodungin lo mes ra nga olbire al time executive branch maureor bla rule e kadam na mes ar et dir do mes al malmo mutun mal de warra do ngal mistri de salwa sektel e warra ke gubuk wangara tarak langar man ulong wangara tikele la kapalment piti kamsulang ay may igang
jam sulang ra kamenter ka ke rupak why say ere komol altau to swiu endi tamatanga katakulya to swiu was etangaratam bol security adang endi to meseng katenge kalo mesera sessioner eli rokit mal smi arngut ra udor lam kat mokla makatamre nga sulir adara Senate el mlosab ilogder lobangela bordera SS gut maklit yagit el amnesty program el girit tigel kuk mlodean sab ilhara ra quarters ma bebi rauder ma budget el mlamgat mok el budget el dia hatangara continuing el almel fiscal year etong utial gole
Ale, malwil tu tahu aku mau gidel bakal murah teteler hospital.
Oi.
Sel kongwa misal masing mo ira asahi field. Siyempre siya asahi field ngwa mo kitang mo kira asahi field. Ese por mi kama soldari le hospital belau el seguir el área mutu hospital. Endi facial bedula aker facial bedul kal toel orio kal medal orio bedula imri ke bedula ngaru un mes algo hay mes tu stories estu bridi erulil moa guk masegidrio guk amau kerrael guk mo brek segid enseguida o seda ada pero guk lil moa mun se ti ital guk etiko sel do mesering gilel multira kesel milgat moka sordara ay US America como sea hospital gilel mo sel ngaria ko state office al sils el amau kal dao mo bisa bedula southwest puede ser bedula southwest ko bisa sunset mo bisa yang engkang hasil sengusang bakarahnya atel bedula angar middle bedula ang bugu segida ko adel kal hospital o sengel lungira patient lungira gaul mo lungira podwangarang ay ultimo kultur si akwadi o pa segida kwadi ulas kwadi mo meting mo rekeltar asay segida malgi mal interrogation resulta ramri lagi kin mo ise What was it in Cuba?
Dia kamsulang kamenter ka ke ruba ke maral to ko ngara palengel labalu endi moyo ra government order ma clol government el mo decide de alogor adal arura de alogol mo malarar expert matiga le ruba mlamkat ora clol blay el waseng mo ngara tetele la bolto or makamal masaura kamenter ka wetong usel tarakol
Malulil tutto
mal klobo leungil
kiale uktogora sekyo Njaka hor opera se me direl kial mission rahor mu rapor la vi appointment ya la temaria la kamera brigele ngatial ilang e lora election commission et mu kamera decision rahor Will request absentee, din amo mio da suma mura brigel ma East Coast ma West Coast level 3 mio din dia kalto da decision na court mong dia kalpenta balot mong ali mo pam sa iwal mong kuradi yung attention na kama bolse me pom nga prepare information ma next talk show MOI seling tok ang kami nga club bela de soril mala absentee kung daw central sentio nga club bela
why say
malol sila kambe santang lo nga information MOI sa mga ngim alang kamal polo ngit kung sa request maluben dia tula
Dia kameral masaule caller emerald tokoy ar admiral di message ogere diga top self final decision rakar karil gire la reapportionment kada direk gureng swase ngara erul telail amla request absentee 2000 mangbal ko sa ikita lerul telail request absentee at mal sabel klo at difference el ball maker ngira secure gidel maral may bayol ngit el wasengari yaklisi ella a olbe el amogut makli el wase bol sab ella igal box el bay moray krel belaw mang sial abay mo sum ok lay gid el request absentee let's say al october middle ra october dirga mo print dirga mo mail tega la 1 week 7 to 10 days al bora marigel o koreng giri lo sigra ade notarize uk mail malme kalel bol meu dara time al tang la sabe del rulia baxel moray krel bela wending kuk mo kakaraw do ma hopefully our leaders kita or ranks at the end of the day en ngarnya lamaltira ngal get ngaray krel bela senkyo unless en kuk ma time el kuk po the chance lo asendia giril merbela mata senkyo ma dito ngun morse hopefully next book find out the information el girel sel to reapportionment Elwasen guk kirelger. Mem tabi isira next week. Adang itong usel kol.
Malungit tutaw.
Malungit tutaw.
Dawa di kami teranga.
Oy.
Tirgel ngal revela ngara kele velao sorry senkyo. Pero velao kami dia kam hara taxer velao. Como ito dudele velao lo duro klabak sen morgomiu. Pero velao senkyo rabe me sablume guk senkyo. La radra miguel kire velao. Abul teme eleksyon temur Amerigen jaklo duro klabak sen mer adr ngar velao. Itriga yo meo ba uzo. Saya alvil gale la rogut to koy un tan stobringi klo lubu ndur tirim berrer bela senkyo obo terbor borsel kal hara tax mangrang di manda sorry tilagi dia kamen tarang sesula
Kamusula kamen targa ke rupa kanti madan triar baby rars legal makatotal kira ma kwa masaibal mamrigel selbek kal masang tesen daw dara Western Union mangaltat nga raikrel ending tadirek ka ol nga seurar adara blirir ending meral togo ingire del guk mo omes le kumda sa plura huriping mang sumswamel senkyo mataiwang engire melmera me soy sebra balu apala taiwang alubang Philippines egire mel senkyo ndi halmel absentee balot mang direk kamalungi lakari mending kira dan mo meserngi el amorngi ya akan kan ne katugut makli sinseng lamo dia ka kodo tiang ahmal di 25 page ending ladi meret di kulngit di kunguyurngil tokoram rigel yal loreng sa angkal rupa kalpul olom kodong al masaw tara konstitusyon mapipilya epol sab el ko lolyu dal ngarnya kora karirar ater bela mel kora mo mere tele kulyu de tor bela weng gukmal mo li siksik te mo kakaraklol time man swadel angarnya kapira budget ter el al 2025 el knilu mangmle swakal share ngilo pang gamiw mamoreng sa tetele labing elay galudo there's a color cell. Oh, haladong usel kol, ebo kung uywertial budget tergider el al 2025.
Yes, sulak. Kelbas.
Oy, ngito tao kapo.
Oh, yes, thank you. Ngito tao dire. Ako rin kagil, wala ko, brat kayo gil, hindi ko brat ko ngil, kalmang ko le. Le langarnya bibirut nakal kanya kira kuam akam rigel gite keram rigel ali kallo ya le kira kuam mukul mevas ngabe bira ngile sejme ki mo kama ya ngakam lak muka mi mario ka muto wario ka kom kukel sobi kerti al bulu mo ka kal ti al bulu asom mga kal bera bera mo kaya maling ito ko ya, mga lagi ito, sabi ko na ilang, mga ako na rinuli siya ng, hindi ka lupit. Kaya bela, hindi ka lupit, ako gusto ko na rin, wala ako lang mga. Elak, tidak ko lagi, tidak lagi nila, tidak lagi nila, kung mo tidak lagi nila, kaya ambransan mo lagi, mo sound. Kung ko na, ay ka ko sa haraw, aso ko maalam mo smell, kaya nila ko lang tayo, American symbol, trouble. Kalamong kalamong kale kapitula gila ko state sibe hospital ya ambulan samdarsi misebol si ala ale temel malurung wa tokol emi to elagen wa ambulan sila ka harap asuma molya tokol emi
terul adal mlam katong al melwa se oy tamle hara 140 direk ka ngayar adara pelulo ay sengal waseng tamle pera nairi dala mang tige either terul ruba halun katong amla confirm wase oy maral tokoy tahara undi tahara mora fire mang dia kaloko loreng sa director ngal PSL director ablila pulis hopefully sum aklima of course our other all be ma executive branch le rogulu to ta torre girel mora umsangalela government gidra finance ada
ela gele o wa fatwa senses mabla ali eketero gol tirme eketero tigal haraw tigil al ses mabla
diak elaklaw madernger nga kakoral diak lingwa diak atel mla masaw dalwa sega pera fire tax el atitata le of course it dia emergency
Adang. Sula.
Dia kam sula lom katong em sula ra kamenter kaw. Ngaria adel mlatexen melwa se ungil tutaw tigel adel ngaray kerl belaw send daw do den meram asang ay ge application sel morar adarabli del dia kalbora government sulang sula ra kamenter kaw. Kultur ga iwi tial tokora budget mansap amil mom tengay inti akaya marak maldi mo oy wil tokora mrigel yal ngarnyang idil garmiw enget tiang ara igal session ra tigal adara olbil mansap amil guktun in igel session or reng ser ra totele laigal ludo del guk tokor belaw ma tiawa se an act tia RPPL 11-37 to enact a budget law for fiscal year 2025 through the authorization of the sum of 134,005,990 and appropriation of the amount of 131,797,143 from the National Treasury from the Annual General Operation, Special Revenue and Debt Service Budget of the Republic of Palau for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2025 to amend Section 2 of RPPL 11-31 for the Ministry of Health and Human Services, to amend Section 40 of RPPL 11-31 for National Development Bank Loan, restructuring to amend Section 1526 of PNC Title 23 for voting polling places and for related purposes. The people of Palau represent in the Olbi Rakalulaw do enact as follows. Section 1, short title, this act shall be known as and may be cited as the Fiscal Year 2025 Budget Act. Section 2, executive branch operation, the sum of 58,808,181 is authorized to be appropriated and here is hereby appropriated for expenditure and obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of covering the operational and contingent expenses of the executive branch. The total amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated shall come from the following sources. The amount of $22,286,606 shall come from anticipated discretionary general fund revenues. The amount of $15 million shall come from the Compact Trust Fund. The amount of $20,400,000 shall come from 2023 Compact Review Agreement Fund for the operation. And the amount of $1,121,575 shall come from the Pristine Paradise Environmental Fund allocation for the Palau International Airport. The total amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated in this section shall be allocated according to the following schedule, respectively: Office of the President, President's Office, 1,074,896. Official Expense, 23,000. Grants Coordinator, 68,000. National Security, 93,604. Council of Chiefs, 146,800. Presidential Stipend, 45,000. Masap total ringi, 1,451,300. Office of the Vice President, Vice President's Office, 337,622. National Emergency Management Office, 281,939. Subtotal, 619,561,000. Akuktobora Ministry of Finance, Office of the Minister, 238,000. Of these funds, the sum of 180,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary is earmarked to conduct state audits. Mang 180,000 ertialudo del 238,000 amo conduct state audits. Palau Energy and Water Administration 142,208. Economic Diversification Initiative 195,760. Information System Support Service $664,018. Of these funds, the sum of 400,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary is earmarked for the migration from legacy IT infrastructure and the data storage to cloud services. Bureau of National Treasury 1,183,914. Bureau of Budget and Planning 848,000. Bureau of Revenue and Taxation 921,000. Bureau of Customs and Border Protection 2,229,000. Yeah, so subtotal la Ministry of Finance as $6,421,900. Yeah, October Ministry of State Office of the Minister is 58,000. Republic of Palau Consulate Office in Guam 133,208. Republic of Palau Embassy in Washington DC 350,000. Republic of Palau Embassy in Taipei, Taiwan 253,600. Republic of Palau Embassy in Tokyo, Japan 751,000. United Nations Representation Office is 439,000. Republic of Palau Embassy in Manila, Philippines 159,600. Republic of Palau Consulate Office in Saipan, Acero. Office of the Public Defender at 348,622. Bureau of Foreign Affairs and Trade 516,292. Bureau of Domestic Affairs 205,226. Bureau of Archive and Media 371,244. Passport Office 106,208. International Organization Obligations, Dues and Fees 311,000. Southwest Island Field Trips, Sontrol and Hato Bay 356,000. Republic of Palau Embassy for European Union, Switzerland 237,000. Republic of Palau Embassy in Suva, Fiji, Chero. Hawaii Consulate Office 70,000. Madobesera Ministry of State in 4,666,000. Aguktabora Ministry of Education, Office of the Minister of 58,000. School, books, supplies, and instrument equipment 752,300. Bureau of Curriculum and Instruction 808,450. Food and Service Program 1,500,000. Bureau of School Operation 8,728,950. Subtotal ni 11,847,700,000. October Blara Ministry of Justice and Minister of Justice Chero Office of the Attorney General 750,640. Bureau of Public Safety 5,100,100. Division of Maritime Security and Fish and Wildlife 1,473,540. Information Technology Management Office 50,000. Office of Professional Standards 60,000. Mang 7,434,280,000. Is there a caller? Oh. Ministry of Health and Human Services. Okay, Office of the Minister 58,000. Palau Severely Disabled Assistance Fund 1,100,227,000. Bureau of Public Health and Human Services 1,912,258. Bureau of Hospital and Clinical Services 8,190,968,000. Bureau of Health System Administration 1,843,650. Hemodialysis 648,450. Ministry Human and Health Services 14,000,000 $753.53. Yakuktobora Ministry of Human Resources, Culture, Tourism, and Development, Office of the Minister 58,000, Ol Hotel Belao Fera 50,000, Palau Small Business Development Center 55,000, National Youth and Aldabel Council 30,000, WIA Grant Contribution 120,000, Bureau of Human Resources 782,658, Bureau of Cultural and Historical Preservation 277,226, Bureau of Tourism 242,810, Bureau of Development 610,193, total ra Ministry of Human Resources, Culture, Tourism, and Development at 2,225,887. October Ministry of Public Infrastructure and Industry, Office the Minister 58,000, FAA, UNDP, and other match 354,000, Bureau of Communication 214,055, Bureau of Marine Transportation 407,948, Bureau of Aviation $2,221,065, Bureau of Land and Survey $978,026, Bureau of Public Works $1,809,496, National Capital Electricity Maintenance $2,416,810, Maudo del Tilob del Mora Ministry of Public Infrastructure and Industry $8,459,400. October Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Environment, Office of the Minister 58,000, Bureau of Fisheries 835,900, Bureau of Agriculture 776,800, Bureau of Environment 257,900 tala, total Almora Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Environment 1,928,600. October Section 3 Judicial Branch, the sum of 4,541,930 is authorized to be appropriated, and 3,975 is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of covering the operational and contingent expense of the judicial branch. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. Judicial branch at 3,975,000. October Section 4 Legislative Branch, the sum of 8,343,000 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditures or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of covering the operational and contingent expense of the legislative branch. The entire amount of funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenue. The total authorization and appropriation shall be allocated according to the following schedule. Senate, 3,165,000. Senate Legal Counsel Office, 303,142. House of Delegates, $3,372,218. House of Legal Counsel Office, 357,414. Joint Staff, 355,226. Association of Pacific Island Legislatures, 50,000. Inter-Parliamentary Union, 20,000. Palau Japan Parliamentary Friendship, 50,000. Electricity for Koror OEK Building, 50,000. Pacific Island Development Bank, 20,000. OEK Office Rental and Equipment, 100,000. OEK Chamber capital expenditures of 500,000, and of this amount, 250,000 shall be appropriated for the House of Delegates Chamber and 250,000 shall be appropriated for the Senate Chamber, matotal la 8,343,000. Is there a call? Yeah, Section 5, Boards, Commissions, and Authorities, the sum of 1,886,833 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriate for expenditure and obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of funding the operational and contingent expense of board, commissions, and authority. The entire amount of funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. The total authorization and the total appropriation shall be allocated according to following schedule, respectively. Foreign Investment Board, 209,414. Palau Election Commission, 514,872. COFA Board of Trustees, 95,000. Palau Public Lands Authority, 149,176. Parole Board, 48,604. Palau Housing Authority, 250,000. Ethics Commission, 49,604. Financial Institute Commission, 126,644. Financial Investigation Unit, 227,103. Code Commission, 60,208. Language Commission, 56,208. Belao National Hospital Authority, 100,000. Matota la 1,866,833. Elaborate Section 6, State Block Grants, the sum of 13,088,600 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of state governments, operation and capital improvement projects. The entire amount of funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. The amount authorized to be appropriated shall be available for expenditure for operations and CIP projects in accordance with 40 PNC Chapter 22. The total authorization and total appropriation shall be allocated according to the following schedule, respectively. Aymalik State, 700,000. Coming 710,000. Irai State, 1,005,360. Angar State, 658,880. Hato Obey State, 563,740. Kayangal State, 621,960. Koror State, 2,502,500. Malgeok State, 694,380. Ngarart State, 759,700. Ngaralong State, 759,700. Ngartmao State, 687,280. Ngaramlungoy State, 700,060 dala. Ngatpang State, 678,760. SR State, 710,000. Niwal State, 687,280. Peleliu State, 785,260. Sonsorol State, 563,740. Mangdortin, 1,088,600. Okay, akakuktabora Section 7, Independent Agencies. The sum of 3,629,522 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 as operating grants or subsidies for independent agencies of the national government. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. The total authorization and appropriation shall be allocated according to the following schedule, respectively. Office of the Public Auditor, 831,821. Of this, 80,000 will be earmarked for the cost of renovating the new office space of the Office of the Public Auditor. Office of the Special Prosecutor, 420,622. Palau Environment Quality Protection Board, EQPB, 540,000. National Postal Service, 446,846. Palau Visitors Authority, 1,098,000. National Aviation Administration, 292,226. Total ngi at 3,629,522. Agukto po Section 8, other agencies and activities, the sum of 1,986,900 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 as grants or subsidies for recurring programs and activities. The entire amount of funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenue. The total authorization and appropriation shall be allocated according to the following schedule, respectively. Palau National Museum to 330,220, Micronesian Legal Service 125,000, Palau Community Action Agency 550,000. Of these funds, the sum of 84,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary is earmarked for the apprentice program for the Civic Action Team. Head Start Program 147,680, Palau Red Cross 25,000, Civic Action Team Share 250,000, Palau International Coral Reef Center 400,000, PNOC and Sports Organization 159,000, total ra Section 8 1,986,900. Agukto po ra Section 9 ra Education Assistance, the sum of 6,958,714 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 to subsidize the educational institution and scholarship program set forth below. The total amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated in this section shall come from local revenue. The total authorization and appropriation shall be allocated according to the following schedule, respectively. Palau Community College, 3,215,594. PCC operations nga parenthesis $2,932,594. PCC Board of Trustees at parenthesis 38,000. Ay gawal a breakdown. PCC CRE at 35,000. COM Board of Regents 25,000. PCC Endowment Fund 75,000, Tuition Assistance to Palau Students 60,000, Micronesian Voyaging Society PCC Navigation Program Support 50,000, aid to non-public schools 1,239,310, Emmaus Petania High School ang parenthesis 215,600. El Moraiga Rural Private School sa higit el amount del tilo del 1,239,310. PMA at 215,600. Mizenti High School at 246,400. Pelau Modakni High School 149,000. Maristela School 147,840. Coror STA Elementary School 147,840. Emmaus Kindergarten na 50,510, STA Kindergarten na 33,260, Catholic Kindergarten na 33,260, Ogora National Scholarship Fund at 2,503,810 sa total. Breakdown na niya fall and spring semester scholarship and grants at 2,388,810. Administrative expense 115,000. Maudo dan mula section 9 at tukura education 6,958,714. Oktobora section 10 na hospital trust fund, the amount of 1,835,575 or the actual amount collected is hereby to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for purpose of the hospital trust fund. The amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated shall come from the revenues derived from clinical and public health, medical and dental services fee and charges during the fiscal year, so long as the actual expenditure or obligations do not exceed actual revenue receipt. Any unexpected or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Section 11 na PAN Fund, the sum of 1,340,685 or the actual amount is collected hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of the Protected Area Network Fund pursuant to 24 PNC 3413. As amended, the amount authorized to be appropriated in this section shall come from the Pristine Paradise Environmental Fee, PPEF, Revenue Allocation for Environmental Protection Green Fee during the fiscal year. Any unexpected or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Section 12, Road Maintenance Fund, the amount of 768,905 or the actual amount collected is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of road maintenance fund to be used for the routine and periodic maintenance of the compact road and other national road infrastructure network. The amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated shall come from the revenue derived from the road use tax and charges during the fiscal year, so long as the actual expenditure or obligation do not exceed actual revenue receipts. Any unexpended or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Section 13, Deposit of Beverage Container. The amount of $471,201 or the actual amount collected is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of the recycling fund. The amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated shall come from fees derived from the deposit of beverage containers pursuant to RPPL 7-24, so long as the actual expenditures or obligations do not exceed actual revenue receipts during the fiscal year. Any unexpended or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Section 14, National Coordinating Mechanism for NCD. The amount of 841,917 or the actual amount collected is hereby authorized to be appropriated, and the amount of 800,000 is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of the National Coordinating Mechanism for NCD. The amount authorized to be appropriated and that is hereby appropriated shall come from available funding from the 10% allocation of the annual revenues derived from the taxes imposed on alcoholic beverage and tobacco during the fiscal year pursuant to RPPL 9-57 as amended. Any unexpended or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. The total appropriation amount shall be allocated according to the following schedule. Small grant scheme, 125,000. Regular grant scheme, 625,000. Administrative expenses, 50,000. Matotal la section 14 800,000. Section 15, all other general fund revolving accounts, the amount of 634,806 or the actual amount collected is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for all other special revolving accounts under the general fund established pursuant to law. The amount authorized to be appropriated and that is hereby appropriated shall come from fees, fines, and other charges derived from various activities and programs during the fiscal year, so long as actual expenditures or obligation do not exceed actual revenue receipt. Any unexpected or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Yadapora Section 16, Cyclical Reserve Fund, the amount of 1,415,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby authorized for fiscal year 2025 for the program of the Cyclical Reserve Fund pursuant to 40 PNC 330. The total amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated in this section shall come from local revenue. Section 17, Climate Resilience Reserve Fund, the amount of 708,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of the Climate Resilience Reserve Fund pursuant to 40 PNC 331. The total amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated in this section shall come from local revenue. Section 18, Infrastructure Maintenance Fund, the amount of 1 million is hereby authorized and appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of matching fund provided from the government of the United States to the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund established by the 2023 Compact Review Agreement as amended. The amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated shall come from the revenues derived from the road use tax and prior year balance of the road maintenance fund so long as actual expenditures or obligations do not exceed the balance available in the road maintenance fund. Any unexpended and unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Section 19, Debt Service, the sum of 9,469,671 or the actual amount of interest and principal due and payable is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of payment periodic interest and principal payments pursuant to the promissory note under the Asian Development Bank, ADB, Water Sector Improvement Program, loan for various infrastructures and institutional capacity improvement initiatives, and the Asian Development Bank Disaster Resilience Program, loan to finance short-term post-disaster financing needs, and the Asian Development Bank Health Expenditure and Livelihood Support, loan to finance the severe adverse impact of COVID-19 on our economy, and the Asian Development Bank Recovery through Improved System and Expenditure Support Program, loan to support critical public sector management reforms, and the Mega International Loan Agreement for the purpose of undertaking various improvements to the Palau International Airport, and the Mega International Commercial Bank Loan Agreement for the purpose of housing development, and the Asian Development Bank Strengthening Fiscal Resilience for Sustainable Development Program policy-based loan of the amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated in this section. 7 million shall come from the 2023 Compact CRA Debt Consolidation Fund. Seligira kampakte. The amount of $1,340,685 shall come from green fee revenues pursuant to 24 PNC 3413, and the amount of $1,128,986 shall come from local revenues. Any unexpended or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this amount shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. The total authorization and appropriation amount shall be allocated to the following allocation schedule. Maigay gitaluto del Mopera ADB loan program, 1,962,941. ADB DRP loan financing, 2,056,250. ADB Hills loan financing, 400,000. ADB Rises loan financing, 2,686,146 ICBC PIA debt service, 236,622. Housing Development Loan Project, 1,615,712. ADB Strengthening Fiscal Resilience, 250,000. PHA ICBC loan, 262,000. Section 9 na igaludaw dito the Mohabal said 9,469,671. Yadabora Section 20 outside grants and development assistance. All external funds received from development partners and donors, including but not limited to the U.S. federal program grants, Japan grant aid, Republic of China, Taiwan grants, other countries, organizations, or individual donors are hereby authorized to be appropriated and are appropriated for fiscal year 2025 in amounts received for these specific programs or projects for which they are granted, donated, and otherwise contributed. U.S. federal program grants and recoveries associated with such programs grants may be retained for use by the President for such purposes as are needed to implement such programs or projects for which they were granted. The Minister of Finance shall report monthly to the Olbi Rakalulaw the receipt of any outside grant or development assistance in the preceding month. In addition to all other reporting requirements established by law or regulation, the Minister of Finance shall submit quarterly reports to the President and the Olbi Rakalulaw setting forth expenditures and obligations of all funds received from outside sources and expended or obligated pursuant to this section. Section 21, Reprogramming. The President shall have the authority to reprogram funds in Section 2, 5, and 7 in the fiscal year 2025 Budget Act in accordance with 40 PNC 351. Section 22, PPUC Automatic Fuel Price Adjustment Clause, Wastewater Subsidy and Lifeline Subsidy Program. The sum of $2,910,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of covering the automatic fuel price adjustment clause, the water and wastewater subsidy, and the Lifeline Subsidy Program of the Palau Public Utilities Corporation. The entire amount authorized to be appropriated in this section shall come from local funds. Any unexpended or unobligated balance of the appropriation of this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Residential water and waste, 960,000. Of the total amount appropriated in this section, 960,000 shall be appropriated for the PPUC residential water and wastewater subsidy to offset the rate for all residential customers. 0.00672 per gallon of water used and 0.00931 per gallon of wastewater used. For up to 2,500 gallons of water and 2,500 gallons of wastewater per customer per month. The PPUC shall reduce each customer's bill by the amount of the offset applied to such customer and shown on each customer's bill the amount of the offset applied to such customer. Lifeline subsidy program at 250,000. Of the total amount appropriated in this section, 250,000 shall be appropriated for the PPUC Lifeline subsidy program in section 32 of RPPL 11-12. Residential electricity, 1,700,000 to offset 10 cents per kilowatt of the AFP pack rate up to 500 kilowatt per month. For residential customers, the PPUC shall reduce each customer AFPAC rate by 10 cents and show on each customer's bill the amount of the offset applied to each customer. Section 22 at 2,910,000. Section 23, supplemental Social Security benefit payments, a sum of 2 million is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 to the Social Security Administration for the purpose of funding the continuation of the $50 per month supplemental Social Security benefit payment for old age insurance and disability as outlined in RPPL 11-12 Section 21A. This benefit is for individuals who are citizens of the Republic of Palau, Federate States of Micronesia, or United States of America, and who have been permanently domiciled continuously in the Republic of Palau for at least 6 months immediately prior to receiving any benefit. Such funds may be expended for the purpose of funding the increase to the minimum amount of the basic benefit pursuant to Section 10 of RPPL 11-32. The entire amount authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. Section 24, medical referral housing, the amount of 3 million is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 to the Ministry of Health and Human Services for the purpose of purchasing a new patient services building in Honolulu, Hawaii, of the amount authorized to be appropriated and appropriated in this section, 1,140,000 shall come from the Cyclo Reserve Fund and 1,860,000 shall come from local revenue. Section 25, Compact Review Advisory Group, the amount of 400,000 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 to provide funding support for the ongoing work and activities, including lobbyist and consultation work of the Compact Review Advisory Group as established by the Executive Order number 447. The entire amount authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues and be non-lapsing. This section shall be exempt from the competitive procurement requirements of Chapter 6 of Title 40 of the Palau National Code. Section 26, Palau Housing Authority Housing Program, the sum of 500,000 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 to provide funding for housing program under the authority of the Palau Housing Authority. The entire amount authorized to be appropriated and that is hereby appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. Section 25, 2025 Pacific Mini Games hosting, the sum of 1,400,000 is authorized to be appropriated and the amount of 1,200,000 is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 to the 2025 Pacific Mini Games Organizing Committee to provide funding for the Republic's hosting of the 2025 Pacific Mini Games to be held from June 29 to July 9, 2025. The entire amount authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. This section shall be exempt from the competitive procurement requirements of Chapter 6 of Title 40 of the Palau National Code. Section 28, Retired Citizens and Disabled Citizens Assistant. The sum of 1,400,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated to the Ministry of Finance for expenditure or obligation for the fiscal year as social assistance of $480 per individual retired citizen at or over the age of 60 residing in the Republic of Palau with no employment earnings, and per individual receiving the disability insurance benefit under the Section 754 of Title 41 of the Palau National Code with no employment earnings. Section 29, Asian Development Bank Koror Irai Sanitation Project Loan, the sum of 3 million is authorized for appropriation and is hereby appropriated for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of payment of the Asian Development Bank Koror Irai Sanitation Project Loan. The entire amount authorized is to be appropriated, and appropriated in this section shall come from the Compact Review Agreement Debt Consolidation Fund. Section 30, Amendment, Section 2 of RPPL 11-31 as amended by RPPL 11-34 is hereby further and amended to read as follows. Ministry of Health and Human Services, hospital equipment, replace, repair, or upgrade, 2,588,743. The amount of 2,588,743 is hereby authorized for appropriation and is hereby appropriated to purchase and install patient critical medical and surgical equipment for the Belao National Hospital and shall lapse on September 30, 2025. Of this amount, up to 281,000 may be used for sole source procurements that may, notwithstanding 40 PNC 627 exceed 20,000 in total value. Said procurement shall comply with all requirements of procurement law except for the 20,000 limit imposed by 40 PNC 626. Section 31, Amendment, Section 40 of RPPL 11-31 as amended is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 40, National Development Bank of Palau Loan Restructuring for COVID-19 Impact on Small and Medium Enterprises. The section of 600,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligations to the National Development Bank of Palau for fiscal year 2024 for the purpose of retiring 75% of all amounts attributable to interest and penalties accumulated in the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 as set forth in Section 195 of Title 26 of the Palau National Code as added by this section. The entire amount authorized to be appropriated and appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. Any unexpended or unobligated balance of the appropriation in this section shall not lapse at the end of the fiscal year. Amendment Title 26 of the Palau National Code is amended to include a new Section 195 as follows. 195, Commercial Loan Restructuring for COVID-impacted loans. Because many small and medium commercial enterprises with loans from the National Development Bank of Palau have been severely impacted by the unforeseeable COVID-19 pandemic, and to provide these small and medium commercial enterprises an opportunity to recover and grow their business, the bank shall retire 75% of all amounts attributable to interest and penalties accumulated because of the interest and late payment penalties for commercial loan entered into by small and medium commercial enterprises severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic incurred during calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The bank shall also, with the consent of the loan recipients, refinance all such loans using such payment terms, conditions, and long-term schedules as are affordable for loan recipient and as will support recovery of those loan recipients from the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Within the section, the following terms shall have specific meanings as follow. Retire shall mean that the bank shall eliminate from a customer's outstanding loan balance of 75% of all amounts attributable to interest and penalties accumulated because of the interest and non-payment of or late payment penalties or commercial loans incurred during calendar years 2020, 21, 22, and 23. To the extent interest and penalties have already been paid, the bank shall deduct the amounts paid from the remaining balance of the loan. In the event any such loan has already been restructured, refinanced, or otherwise negotiated or consolidated, the bank shall, with the consent of the loan recipient, agree to unwind such restructuring or consolidation and then retire all balance attributable to interest or penalties. Small and medium commercial enterprise shall mean businesses include but not limited to sole proprietorships, small contractors, and self-employed persons that had outstanding loan balances at the bank as of December 31st, 2019 with original principal of less than $600,000 in total, with a primary source of revenue in the tourism sector and directly engaged in enterprise protected for Palau citizens by 28 PNC 105P. Non-payment or late payment penalties shall mean penalties or negative consequences incurred because a customer did not make full payment on the balance of a loan during calendar years 2020, 21, 22, and 23. Commercial loans for the purpose of this section shall mean loans issued by the National Development Bank of Palau for commercial purposes, including activities protected for Palau citizens by 28 PNC 105P. Commercial loans shall include only those loans that had outstanding balances as of January 1st, 2023. Severely impacted shall mean that the borrower was a business engaged in one of the commercial activities directly generating revenue from the tourism sector and the protected pursuant to 28 PNC 105P. The bank shall promulgate regulations and forms as necessary to implement this section. This section shall be interpreted liberally to accomplish the purpose set forth in this section. The bank shall not discriminate against or otherwise negatively impact the credit rating of any loan recipient by reason of that recipient having defaulted on a loan affected by this section or by reason that recipient utilizing the provisions of this section. The bank shall report to the President of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Delegates quarterly on the implementation of this section, the number of affected loans, and on the amounts written down. Section 32, Amendment, Section 1526 of Title 23 of the Palau National Code is hereby amended and to read as follows. 1526, voting at another polling place within the Republic, polling places outside the Republic. In accordance with the rules and regulations promulgated by the Election Commission, a voter shall have the right to vote on election day at a polling place other than the polling place in the political jurisdiction of which he is a resident, provided that the rules and regulations shall require no more than 3 calendar days, notice immediately preceding the day of the election. For each election, the Election Commission shall specifically provide that each voter may vote either in their state of residency or at a central polling place located in Koror or located in another place designated by the Election Commission. The Election Commission shall specifically provide voting at a polling place elsewhere in the Republic. The Election Commission may not establish polling places outside of the Republic. Section 33, Appropriation for January 2025 Inauguration. The sum of 100,000 is hereby authorized for appropriation and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation to the Office of the President to fund the activities and programs related to the January 2025 inauguration and transition of government. The entire amount authorized to be appropriated and hereby appropriated in this section shall come from local revenues. Section 34, Amendment, Section 3301 and 3302 of Title 34 of the Palau National Code are hereby amended as follows. 3301, Trafficking. Except as authorized by this division, it shall be unlawful for any person knowingly or intentionally, any person who violates subsection with respect to fentanyl methamphetamine as defined in 34 PNC 3106C, to heroin, cocaine as defined in 34 PNC 3106A4, lysergic and acid diethylamide, LSD, morphine, or other Schedule 1 or 2 opiate or opium derivative as set forth in 34 PNC 3104 and 3106 shall be sentenced to a term of imprisonment of not less than 25 years but not more than 50 years, and a fine of not less than $50,000 but not more than $1 million, notwithstanding any other provision of law. A person sentenced to imprisonment under this subsection shall not be eligible for any work release program. Any person who attempts to import into the Republic or to manufacture fentanyl, methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, LSD, morphine, or other Schedule 1 or 2 opiate or opium derivative as set forth in 34 PNC 3104 and 3106 shall be sentenced to a term of imprisonment of not less than 25 years but not more than 50 years, and a fine of not less than $50,000 but not more than $1 million. 3302, Possession. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, any person who violates subsection A with respect to fentanyl, methamphetamine, and as defined in 34 PNC 3106C, to heroin, cocaine as defined in 34 PNC 3106A4, lysergic acid, LSD, morphine, or other Schedule 1 or 2 opiate or opium derivative as set forth in 34 PNC 3104 and 3106 shall be penalized as follows. Any person who possesses 1 gram or less shall be sentenced on first conviction to a term of imprisonment of 5 years and fined not less than $10,000, or subsequent conviction for a violation of subsection A. With respect to fentanyl, methamphetamine as defined as 34 PNC 3106C2, heroin, cocaine as defined in 34 PNC 3106A4, and LSD, morphine, or other Schedule 1 or 2 opiate or opium derivative as set forth in 34 PNC 3104 and 3106, the person shall be sentenced to a term of imprisonment of not less than 5 years and not more than 10 years, a fine of not less than $10,000 or both. Any person convicted of violation of subsection A with respect to fentanyl, methamphetamine as defined 34 PNC 310662, heroin, cocaine as defined in 34 PNC 3106A4, LSD, morphine, and other Schedule 1 or 2 opiate or opium derivative as set forth in 34 PNC 3104 and 3106 shall not be eligible for parole on any subsequent conviction for violation of subsection A with respect to fentanyl, methamphetamine as defined in 34 PNC 310662, heroin, cocaine as defined in 34 PNC 3106A4, LSD, morphine, or other Schedule 1 or 2 opiate or opium derivative as set forth in 34 PNC 3104 and 3106. Section 35, Marine Transport Expense. The sum of $150,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of marine transportation expenses, notwithstanding any limitation in 40 PNC 140B or any other law, the entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. The total appropriation in this section shall be allocated to the following schedule. Angar State Government, 50,000. Kayang State Government, 50,000. Peleliu State Government, 50,000. Section 36, Aimee Lake State Government, the sum of 200,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Aimee Lake State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year for the purpose of building an access road to the Tabadal subdivision to right across the Ersoy. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 37, Iray State Government, the sum of 100,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriate to Iray State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of extending Gasabalao Road. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 38, Angar State Government, the sum of 35,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriate to Angar State Government for expenditure of obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of purchasing a mobile lawn tractor. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 39, Hatobe State Government, the sum of 23,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriate to Hatobe State Government for the purchase of a hybrid tied solar PV system. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 40, Kayang State Government, the sum of 40,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Kayang State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of youth programs and renovating the Kayang Youth Center. The entire amount of funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 41, Coro State Government, the sum of 250,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated for Coro State for expenditure of obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of solid waste management operation, MDOC rehabilitation, tire shredding facility, collection trucks, and collection maintenance. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 42, Malgayok State Government, the sum of 50,000 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Malgayok State for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of a vehicle for the Malgayok State Public Lands Authority and upgrading the operational infrastructure of the Malgayok State Public Lands Authority, road construction and maintenance, sewer system upgrade and maintenance, energy efficient street lights and public works, petroleum, oil, and lubricants costs. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 43, Ngarat State Government, the sum of 378,550 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriate to Ngarat State for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of the Ngaklau Waterline Project. The entire amount of this fund authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 44, Ngaralong State Government, the sum of 40,000 is authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Ngaralong State Government for expenditure or government for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of maintenance and improvement to the Molangmes Fishing Cooperative and for the purpose of hosting the Maasil and Rubugul Angaralong Forum. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section come from the Cyclone Reserve Fund. Section 45, Ngaramlungoy State Government, the sum of 35,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Ngaramlungoy State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of rehabilitating the Ngaramlungoy Fish Market and Gas Station. The amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cycle Reserve Fund. Section 46, Ngatpang State Government, the sum of 50,000 is hereby to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Ngatpang State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of completion and implementation of the Ngatpang State Master Plan. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cycle Reserve Fund. Section 47, SR State Government, the sum of 50,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to SR State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of funding the SR Public Land Authority. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from Cycle Reserve Fund. Section 48, Udesuall State Government, the sum of 90,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Udesuall State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of capital improvement to the Imagang Port. The entire amount of this fund authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cycle Reserve Fund. Peleliu State Government, the sum of 60,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Peleliu State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of maintenance costs for the Peleliu State Boat and to construct a new boat ramp for the Aloal North Dock. The entire amount of the funds authorized and appropriated this section shall come from the Cycle Reserve Fund. Section 50, Sonsorol State Government, the sum of 15,000 is hereby authorized to be appropriated and is hereby appropriated to Sonsorol State Government for expenditure or obligation for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of expense relating to the Sonsorol State Constitutional Convention. The entire amount of this fund authorized and appropriated in this section shall come from the Cycle Reserve Fund. Section 51, severability in any provisions of this act is found to be invalid or unconstitutional by a court of competent jurisdiction, then the offending parts of or portions may be served from the rest of the bill, and the remaining parts or portions shall continue in full force and effect. Section 52, effective date. This act shall take effect upon its approval by the President of the Republic of Palau or upon its becoming law without such approval. Passed on September 23, 2024. Ya President tergi ramle sain neringi ram teriram silbelar sera September 2024. Matiayit sel budget tergi ter LL 2025. Malmle kama makora mo makita English nga kandik merenga suli rakalo reng elmlo sab ilgo goreng saigal tetele la pingel laigal ludo el gire la budget tergi ter 2025 mal masaw langgel atan les share tial lo banget mang sab eden easy le kor kamiu direct mlaringi sel gora age karel ceremony gire la balura hatto obey masonsorol a southwest del president taukmlo sab el matigaw do ngu ataraklol bilas el masterir mang amo sab el bekal boy lang bekalerul boy lang bekaletel boy lal sab el lol takarar adal mong ngar oriore guk mora ke karel blu guk may magada malmrenga sulirar adal guk mlo sab il gukut mokla at transportation el girit tegal atatel ngarato obey ma sonsorol gorati geigif yal sugumang Udesuall algora otengingel Caroline ngir amat rahmal mleungil aldatal eser ngil girela Independence Day kom laarin nga siral lo nguy werngi sel gorah malulubong aldatal akmula se Seltingela former President John F. Kennedy say ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. Magatamalmol malgay ngasew elgira la balwad etia government tergi drogoy magatamorat kurpapal sabedel support tigay gidel guk ngarngi lom tergid makuk pesel senkyo gaduk mo omesel wase tangaramo om tergid el al maral mel pesel lewarak ete halogol ang ariya atalom ko to matungug tialgol ialgo kaldigya ko to okore tong simleng akmal mlo kamatan muy vertial tokora bachete en aniya maser ngar betelun ko to dindim lak enser mal sumsab ele lutolom ko to atang ale tungug tialgol
Apo.
You're on the air now.
Oy. Klutan ba mga Jennifer?
Oy, nito tao.
Ako may kutulisir sa total Aigel Federal Front Department. Di akal conclude Federal Front ay interior. Iyero Federal Front Department. Ako total ringi 58,961,203 dollars. Saya total aja lu di akal conclude aja di interior udah kon parnya tul issue gumes ngara house masenet el alta issue amen bersegi del 480 matara issue el change la election commission central wax se volmu lo sisubi moral state rabur bela mornya central wax ralse el alsins en área central back se rogul ababol sentyong ngedi nga bingar oreor el atum nangul Marigal state el misel bo misel Jennifer el ang área proper ma central back sa Raigal state en nga kamuy ro marang alwasay a central al sugo mo bringin oreor el Marigal state dialo democratic outlying states ngayang al Bililio Angar sa west en mo ko sara avel senkyo trabi ang lokora kaya kita aral alu al October el ngosa maraat amo maara alu emo senkyo ra all mga along may albulura ko to akong baswing mornya turn out ra sil tigel wi sister borders ra silvero al sugum kadamnat sen setiangal mo proper ma central Marigal state instead na di mga nilaal sentral ang order mabekal mula di sector order then employer ra employer kabilment nga sityal badu babato ko la agra babet padangel abalo sityal badu eka mo bernil ukmora ay galbet ay bet padangel state edi ako dito issue makmal lood te lolomol makabsulang
malungil oy mral gora waser adal pora pluril senkyon din kuk ngar adal dia kam lirir mal pora pluril mo senkyon mal mring lal ngartian lo magal el mora north direct al pol mrekar adal lodior lo magal el mong kalel salmal mo kamangta o maral mong gatamreng asuliar atara olbil el guk mlo sa ilgut maklitiang ngharnya adal mla meset sel dia ko dengan dirka kisat tial papingel la office ra attorney general el mlora election commission el giret tial root ra president and dito wase tial babiel rom laptop dara social media wase confidential attorney communication not for distribution manggal adan mla sender niya singra mang luusel confidential attorney communication not for distribution tamla poster ngira Facebook ma diswa al muy vertial message rangal adalun mo le message el masader tiagit el document el angara Facebook el dirga kisam mang diswa tan isil wase ang lagi na di mo karkik tal sumang lu silwase confidential and not for distribution po to kaliya igal papier sa laptop da rabuay el akora digiangot makmal merenga sulil gukmlo sa pamilo panggeter el altutaw manamo ko mga tialul Udesuall ko mal masaulul kallow reng al mlosop edel kuk miisil mer kamiwa pa chet tergider el al 2025 ti sual ngutial te alle merenga sulela a Blake King el Lora Omray le wasit Jennifer ko meser ka ko plol di terope o meser tial te ngwar ka mang Lora Omray lal mengo patial stand mangwaseng mo poyot terka wa o mes makti ngartiang e mal merenga sulel ma Mr. Blake King el ngiat taram le solda we kan mal merenga sulela service ringi atang ma klutel merenga suliw pom karki klengora mo ulle tiak Tokam asang ma omamgal le pom karkik le payday weekend ma komal mo karkik le komal masaw le kukmlo sub amiw lo panggether el al tutaw di suwa lo ay salwaseng haringya article rar adara sinal gilsang ito ay salwase ay gal alet malungir patenget ma siwara patenget ma tulud mandi suwa lo ay salwase mo belaharngut al mga igel alether wa arambro mairim the mangims ndingok tiam sa lo aklol sa ngileng di halungil mang suwa ti share sel waseng anya article al gilsang al adarasina ultabdil wasay gal aletha malungir rapatnget especially sel blate ngalakra o kayimel parnya siwa rapatnget lolkong malungir raigal siwara matata mapatangit ma komal masaw lal mlosop milo pangket malungil weekend le kor kamiu matulungal gar kamiu ya Dios lol mol mlo makngal tangat tergit rokoy mapalwat pelaw komaral masulang